The following is a GoPowerCat.com production.
It is 60 degrees here today at Studio 73 in Frisco, and I think that's all that needs to be said. Sunshine is in the air here, people, and this is the Big Insiders.
Welcome to the Big Insiders, your Big 12 sports show, presented by Synergy Financial Partners. Now let's go to booming North Texas, home of Studio 73. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
Welcome to the Big Insiders, presented by Synergy Financial Partners. Fitz, what is going on, my man? What's happening?
Nothing. I'm looking forward to this. I want to see if people show up to ask you questions. I know we got one guy tearing up the chat. Our good friend K-Ned is he's not brief, but he's thorough.
Hey, I'm looking forward to it myself. I enjoy answering questions from the chat, just chopping it up with people that want to come on live here. So I would feel like we're not doing ourselves or would feel like we're doing ourselves a disservice if we don't cover at least a little bit about what happened last night, K-State, Iowa State game. To me, it was just it was a good basketball game that got chopped up by bad officiating.
Yeah.
Now, I know that's going to sound like K-State fans are whining about officials, but to me, again, the game got close, the game got tight, and then the officials made an egregious call and basically decided the game.
Yeah.
And it was ridiculous.
And I'm told, look, I wasn't there last night. My guys were there. But I'm told Jerome Tang was teed up that quickly because he was waving his arms. He didn't curse.
Yeah.
Jerome doesn't curse.
Right.
He was waving his arms.
It looked like, if you just watched the replay, it looked like the back ref that was on the baseline was just watching him and just ready to call a tech. And I'm like, but that's what drives people insane, though, Fitz, is, look, it was a horrible call. It should have never been a foul call, but it was. But you can't then turn around and punish a coach for going berserk because you blow a call, they react to that blown call, and then on top of that, then you're going to punish them and the team. That's what drives me insane about officiating.
I agree. I saw some things last night from the officials, not missing calls, just they didn't go the way I thought they should.
Correct.
Just poor job. I mean, we get a kid that gets laid out at, the top of the key with an elbow to the face. And now the replay is, as we've seen it, Jerry Pollard wasn't even watching the game. He was looking into the stands at that moment. What the hell are you doing looking at fans with the ball in play? He completely missed it. And then he turns around. You can see him kind of see Brien laying there with, probably blood obvious. But he just kind of glances and then just moves on and ignores it and never reviews it. It was so odd. And I can't wrap my mind around it. And we do have most of our questions right now are from our friend K-Ned, who is an official. And K-Ned, put this in the chat for me if you could. Jerome Tang was told that the clock before halftime couldn't be reviewed. They can only do that in the second half. But I thought that was odd. I thought a timekeeping error, which is what it was. The clock kept running after the whistle. A good second, if not a second and a half, came off the clock. Is that correct? You can't fix a timing error at the college level in the first half? I've never heard of that. I'm a little confused by that. It was the whole game was. Look, I used this stat last night, and the Iowa State fans were like, "Quit fouling." Well, look, K-State didn't change the way they were defending the entire game, but they had 11 fouls called in the first, 28 minutes and 12 seconds, and 16 called. Can't get my numbers right in the final, 7:48 or whatever it was, and it worked out to a foul call every 47 seconds on K-State during that time period.
Right.
Come on. That's not.
Well, they had two in the first 28 seconds.
Yeah, well, both on Cam Carter.
Yeah, and I don't know. It is what it. First of all, K-State didn't play great.
No,
let's throw that out there.
Well,
K-State
that's exactly
didn't play great, and I think a lot of people are thinking that you're using the fouls or we're using the fouls as excuses. No, two things can be true. That's the main thing. Two things can be true. K-State didn't play great, and in the first half they didn't. They didn't play great.
They're awful.
Yeah, I mean, but also the officiating, and I'll say on both sides, it was bad. But there seemed to just be it was just bad all around, and we'll get into that. There's a great question that I saw by H. Lance that I kind of want to attack that one first, Fitz, if you don't mind.
Okay, let me bring it up here. It's kind of long. Let's see what we got here. Is there anything that can be done about the terrible state of officiating college basketball and football? Is making Big 12 basketball almost unwatchable? The first thing I want to say, though, Big B, is this isn't just a Big 12 problem. This is a national issue.
Absolutely.
And as K-Ned will tell you, recruiting and keeping good young officials, I don't want to be good, is almost impossible at the high school level. And that's probably mostly on parents, to be honest. I think that's where it's got really unfortunate. But they have to come up with a way to start, accessing all of these former college athletes and get them into officiating. You got a whole pool of people coming out, running out of their athletic eligibility. They know they're not going to go on and play at the next level. That's what the story of most players is. And you know what? Just give them some financial incentive to take classes and get into officiating and see if it helps. What are your thoughts?
That's absolutely my thought. First thing I want to touch back on is when you talked about the high school rings. It's, it's weird because we always talk about as a society that, our parents were tougher on us. Our parents were tough on us. And my parents, my mom and dad, they were tough on me and my brother. They just were. And the kinds of things that they did at our sporting events, you don't see today. You didn't see the crazy parents out there running around. For the most part, you just didn't see that. And it's gotten more that way over the last 10, 15 years. That's why officials are like, I'm not going to deal with this.
Yeah.
And so when you think about that aspect of it, then it's like these parents, and that's what we say, oh, the parents are crazy. The parents are crazy. I'm like, but it's us. We are the parent. I'm 48 years old. I'm the parent. It's people our age that are out there. It's like, where did that come from? How did we, because our parents were so strict and tough on us. And now it's like, that's not the case. It's like, yeah, you can be strict, but we are the people that are out there going absolutely berserk. I just think that I find that funny in a lot of sense, because a lot of people say, oh yeah, the parents are crazy. I'm like, well, who are the parents? Oh yeah, it's us. It's me. I'm the parent that's out there going berserk on these officials. So that's why I tend to watch games at home, Fitz. I don't want to be labeled as that crazy person. I watch the games at home.
I agree. I mean, it's look, I know this back in the day, the heckling from the parents was to us. They were like, play harder. They're on us.
Yeah.
They weren't on the refs. They were like, getting after us. It's kind of funny how things have changed. But I do want to back up and fill this in. That atmosphere last night at Hilton Coliseum, that's what makes the Big 12 special.
1,000%.
I don't want Iowa State fans to think, we're, like you said, blaming the loss on.
No, it wasn't the officials.
Iowa State deserved to win that game. I mean,
Yes,
even when the game was tied, they had played better for longer in that game. Honest to God, once again, I can't figure out how K-State got back into that game by the way they played early on. Credit to the coaches and players for finding that formula. I still can't explain how you get out rebounded, how you have 17 more turnovers again, 3 games in a row. With 17 coming off an 18 and do all the things they did, get in the kind of foul trouble, give up that disparity of free throw shots, and you're still in the game. No explanation. So kudos to Jerome Tang and gang for that. But that atmosphere in Hilton is unreal.
It's incredible. Yeah,
it's unreal. It's just wonderful. And they're great fans. They're amazing fans. They show up for their team better than any other program in the Big 12. I mean, it's not even close. They can be 4-6 in football, which are not very often now. They were a couple of years ago, and they show up 60,000 strong at the football stadium. It's
absolutely
hats off.
Absolutely. But to answer that question by I think it was H. Lance earlier, I think that we have to start at the collegiate level with these officials. We have to start making programs that the NCAA just goes into schools and just make it a priority. Look, we know that 99.9% of college athletic participants are not going to the next level. They're just not. So why not start getting some of these guys to become officials? Just create a program, and go start recruiting some of these people. It's a way for them to stay involved in football, involved in basketball, involved in volleyball, involved in whatever sport it happens to be. Start recruiting at that level, because you never know. A lot of these people may still want to be in it. Yeah, I know I can't play at the highest level, but if I might be able to officiate at the highest level or at this level, I think that's where you got to start. Because look, and I say this all the time, it's not anything bashing older people. It's the players don't get any younger. They don't get older, I should say. They stay the same, especially in college sports. They don't get any older. Their age limits are the same, but it's the officials that continue to get older. So why not bring younger guys in? And again, we don't see things better as we get older. My eyesight at 48 isn't as good as it was when I was 23 years old, period. Now, I'm not saying a 23-year-old needs to be an official. I think that's way too young. But at 30, you can be an official. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Yeah, they have to work their way up. But I think the NCAA can do anything. They can put together a program to find officials that have been in the game, that have played the game at a collegiate level, that maybe want to continue to officiate. I think you'd find a ton of athletes in all sports that want to be a part of that.
Well, the integrity of the game is at stake here.
Yeah.
We've got an upper crust of officials that think they can just do whatever they want to do because they're untouchable. And that,
correct.
Whether it's Jerry Pollard or Doug Sermons or Doug Schau, who doesn't work Big 12 games but is the same type of guy. They're all over, and who can blame them? They're not getting fired. They don't have enough officials. They're not going to fire the good, what they view as the good ones, the veteran ones. This is interesting from KNet in the chat. The average high school ref, as said, he's an official who trains, tries to get new officials into the gig. The average high school ref age is 55, but they start at 45 on average, and only 20% make it to the third year. He's given me that stat before. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's got to get fixed. And before we get to that, I want to answer this one real quick as I selfishly take over your show. Here we go. Chris Adams asks, "Hey Fitz, you traveling to Provo?" It's on my list, and I planned on doing it. But with everything going on in my life, I've shut down travel for right now. I didn't travel to Iowa State. I'm health wise, I'm fine. It's the treatment. And so the chemo pills I take on a daily basis leave me exhausted with sniffles. You can always see me go into my nose. And then other things, memory loss is another one. I always forget it for some reason. And but yeah, I really wanted to come to Provo, but also the flights right now are ridiculous.
Yeah,
ridiculous. Come on, airlines. Come on. Let me give you the KNED one that we like so much because hold on, that's the wrong one, isn't it? We've starred some other ones up here.
I like that question though.
Well, go ahead. All with 3
Yeah.
30-second shot clock and 20-second reset. Games are routinely in the 50s and 60s in college basketball. Is there any happy medium between that and NBA? What has happened to the half-court offensive IQ? It's gone, man.
Yeah,
it's gone.
Well, the one thing about it is I know he's talking about a happy medium between college and the NBA. I think you got to watch some more NBA games. And I don't mean him in general, just watch more NBA games. The skill level and the shot making ability in the NBA is so much better than it is in college. It's not even funny. So that's number one, is you got to look at the skill level of these NBA guys. I know a lot of people don't like the NBA. I'm not a huge fan of the NBA, but if you actually just sit down and watch a game, the skill level of the NBA and the shot making is unbelievable. So the scores are not going to be close. That's why there's the difference. Now, 24 seconds shot clock too. You're going to get a lot more possessions, a lot more shots up, but they make them. And that's the difference. Where in college, they don't make them. Again, we're back to the 99.9%. There's going to be some guys in college that are going to go play in that NBA league. And there's going to be guys that don't. The majority of the guys that don't, almost everybody. So they're not going to be a good player. I think that's part of it. I know what you're talking about as far as the basketball IQ. That goes back to an AAU thing. They don't teach fundamentals as much anymore. All they're concerned about is just playing the games, and they don't practice enough. I mean, that's just simple. I mean, and I'm not trying to simplify your question by any means, but that, to me, that's an easy answer, is just they don't practice. They just play. And when you don't practice, you don't learn.
Yeah, and they're pretty good getting up and down the court and dunking. But at the last end there, what has happened to half-court offensive IQ, it's gone. Those AAU coaches aren't spending a lot of time on how to value possessions and maximize them. They're not working on dribbling.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm astonished at the high-level players, and there's some on K-State, who can handle the ball the way they should be able to.
Absolutely.
I'm just stunned at how the fundamentals have just kind of fallen apart. But, speaking of, though, half-court offensive IQ, Johnny Furphy from KU, did I get his name right? Just watch him play. It's absolutely incredible. It is amazing to watch this young guy go about his business because he just sees the court. He feels space. It's absolutely amazing to me how good he is. And maybe it's to your point, Kenneth, that nobody else is doing it. So when he's like moving just subtly without the ball, making himself more available, it's so noticeable to me because nobody else is really doing it. So you would pair that with a 6'9" guard that can shoot it. I mean, this guy's gonna go for a long time. He's such a smart player.
Yeah, there's something to be said about basketball IQ. And here's another thing that I'll throw into this as well, Fitz. Think about the women's game in college. The collegiate women's basketball has grown just tremendous over the last 10 years. Well, why? Well, because they play basketball. They play fundamental basketball.
Yeah, they do.
They don't have the athletes that are out there running and jumping and touching the top of the backboard. So they have to run plays. They have to run sets. They have to have basketball IQs, fundamentals, work the ball around, get good shots. Do they have people that can play individual basketball? 1,000%. And you need that. Mm-hmm. You need that in basketball. But that's not what they do. Even at the WNBA level, they're running sets. They're running stuff. It's not a bunch of ISO ball out there. It just isn't. And people like that. And guess what? People come and they gravitate to that and they start watching it. You're always going to have people watching the NBA because the player that, to me, they're the best athletes in the world. So they're going to be out there doing that. But when you just talk about actual basketball IQ, you go watch a high level. For instance, the game tonight. I know it's not the Big 12, but you watch this basketball game tonight between South Carolina and LSU. And you tell me that they're not playing high-level, high IQ basketball. Those two coaches are really good, and you're going to see it out there. And that is what's missing in the men's game in college, in my opinion. It's just missing. First of all, the rules, and we can get into that a different time, or if somebody wants to ask that question, we can get into why. But it's that we just don't have the basketball players anymore, Fitz. That's why. Basketball players, you don't have to be the greatest athlete to be a really, really good basketball player. I mean, one of my favorite players of all time is Larry Bird. He wasn't a great athlete at all, but he couldn't stop him on the basketball court because he was super smart. He could shoot, but he was super smart, knew where he was going 2 steps before anybody else. We don't have a whole lot of those anymore, Fitz.
My kingdom for a new Pete Maravich, a guy that can absolutely shoot it and dribble it like he's a Harlem Globetrotter. I mean, again, ball handling is a lost art, and Marquise Noel had it. It's not just ball handling as dribbling, but the ability to pass around your back, do all those things. It's a lost art, and again, when someone does it, it just jumps off the screen to you. It's like, wow, look at this.
Yes. Absolutely.
Here's another one from.
Go ahead.
Why do I keep popping this one up? Golly, I'm having problems here. It's the one we liked the most as a former player, because I want to hear you. What are your old man, get off my lawn, die on that hill takes about what is worse and better about how the game is played today? Now that's a great question. Make sure you're dropping your questions in. This is all we're doing today is answering your questions.
If we're talking football, it's not physical enough anymore. They've taken that aspect out of the game. Look, I don't want anybody being hurt. That's the one thing. I don't like people being injured and out. I do not like that at all. But there is a physical aspect of football, especially as an offensive lineman. My job was to move somebody against their will. And if that meant every now and then I had to punch them in the stomach, hit them in the side, whatever it is to get an advantage, that's kind of what you do. Now, that still goes on. Don't get me wrong. But there's a physical intimidation aspect of football that they are trying to eliminate. And I think it's a problem. I get that it's dangerous running across the middle as a wide receiver, but that was part of football. It was part of don't run in there. Or if you're going to run in there, I remember my father used to say this as a high school coach a million times. You run in there and the ball touches you, you better catch it because they're going to hit you. So regardless of whether or not you catch it or not, you're going to get hit. So if you go in there, catch the football. And I feel the same way today. It's like, look, so there's some jobs in this world that are dangerous. And as much as we try to take the danger out of it, it's still there. Football is a dangerous sport. It is a collision sport. And that is not saying that we can't try to legislate some safety rules or a safety net within it. But when you go up to a quarterback and you go to sack a quarterback and you're telling me because you happen to land on the quarterback when he has the ball in his hand and that's roughing the passer, we've gone too far.
Yeah.
We've just gone too far.
I'm all in with cleaning up, leading with your helmet.
Absolutely.
The crowning your helmet. And it's called typically when defenders strike offensive players, it's meant to actually protect the defender.
Correct.
The striker, not the strikee. You're doing something that could end up leaving you in a wheelchair. We're going to penalize you and sit you out like a bad kid until you learn your lesson. But they've just contorted that now into, you hit him too hard. You push the quarterback down.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks aren't, they're not just little kids that you got to protect. They've just gone too far with it. I'm all in on protecting them with, sliding and stepping out of bounds. But also you have to remember that if someone is going at them at, 20 miles an hour, if it's like a safety coming up, roaring up to hit a quarterback, and a second before he arrives, he steps on the out of bounds line, there's physics involved here that football rules have to appreciate.
Yes.
And you know what? If they're going to call that lowering the crown of your helmet on a defender, you better do it when a running back does it going up the middle and intentionally puts the top of his helmet into your chest. That's the same thing. And if you're really looking to stop spinal injuries, you got to call that too. So, but they've wussified football in so many ways. It's just, it's painful to watch.
Well, in the NFL, and I think, I saw it firsthand with Ryan Shazier, that Monday night game against Cincinnati. It was a perfect example. He led with the crown of his helmet. His head was down, and he hit the guy in the hip. He hits the guy in the hip, and he can't walk. He's literally paralyzed. He had to learn to walk. I mean, he's walking now, but it was years before he could do that. I mean, that's the perfect example. And that one, I think, is the one that scared everybody because it was out in the middle of the open. It wasn't like in the middle of a play. It was right out in open field. It was him and an offensive guy. And he hits the guy. It's on Monday Night Football where everybody's watching, and the guy's paralyzed. So, and I think that changed everything and thought, okay, we got to do something. They just went too far. They went the other direction. The overcorrection, they just overcorrected too much, in my opinion. Just a little bit too much.
Okay, give me your old man, get off my lawn take on holding calls. Have they changed since you played, and what are your thoughts on
it? Yeah, they've changed a little bit because they seem to call a lot more when guys are running outside and then often defenders flailing, and then they just start calling it. That's what I see a lot. It's the flop in basketball. It's the flop in football where a defender just starts flailing around because you're being held on every single play. That let's just call that every single play, whether it's inside, outside. And the one thing is they're not consistent with it because you see plenty of times where a guy's being held on the outside of his shoulders where a defender can't even raise his arms up and they don't call anything.
Yep.
Then another time where a guy's running and he's got his hand on the inside of his plate, and that's where they teach you to block people, and then you call holding just because they're moving to the side. I'm like, well, wait a second. I think they've gotten away, or they've started calling that too much. They've started calling the flailing too much instead of just letting people play football.
I agree. Those are good old man things. You got anything else? We could just do Big B's old man rants every day.
I mean, I got a lot to say. I got a big mouth. So I think it's a good time. We'll take a quick break from Synergy Financial Partners here. We will be right back after this quick break.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the mission is to change the way Americans plan for their financial future. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
Welcome back to the show. Let's head back to the studio.
All right. Welcome back to the Big Insiders, again presented by Synergy Financial Partners. I saw this question over here. I was mentioning, we were talking about the refs, and somebody brought up the fact a 23-year-old, how come a 23-year-old wouldn't be a good college official?
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, they don't have enough experience. That would be the first thing. You got to have some sort of experience on being an official. And officiating, a YMCA game growing up as a high school kid or whatever is not experience watching grown men or even college kids running full speed and having to make those kind of decisions in a split second. You don't have the experience yet at 23. Now, I don't think that you have to wait till you're 50 to be an official either. But at the same time, 23, you don't have the experience yet. It's a good question.
Yeah.
But I just don't think you have the experience yet to be able to do that.
Think of all the things that officials do that we're not conscious of. How they rotate on the floor of the field or on a baseball field, how they divide up assignments, how, just all these nuanced things that we don't understand, but they have to put into their muscle memory. They just do it. They don't think about, I need to rotate over here. They just go. And that takes a while. It doesn't matter if it's learning a new offense in basketball or football. It takes a while to get going up to speed and not be thinking about everything you need to do and just go do it so you can think about the things you're supposed to be doing, which is, calling the game.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into officiating, just a lot. And again, you don't even notice the refs until you notice the refs. Yeah. Until they've done something, you don't even notice that they are out there until it's a good or a bad something on your side. So that's the one part of officiating. So
refs and snappers.
Yep. Let's see.
Give back to Lance here. It looks like they're zoning in on the offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I just
Sharon.
I had Sharon
Moore.
I just found out he's from Derby, Kansas.
Is he? Okay.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Well, I think it would be. I mean, what did he coach? 6 games this year?
Yeah.
So whatever. I mean, if he coached 6 games this year, again, on a national championship football team, I would think the job is his.
I know. And also, I said this on the radio this morning out of Wichita. I was like, well, if they don't hire him, and let's say they come and hire Chris Kleiman or Lance Leipold instead, go hire him.
Yes.
I'm impressed by the dude.
Absolutely.
Those kids were bought into him.
Yes.
And you can tell he's a leader of men. I would absolutely hire him. Maybe there's something, that we don't know about. Maybe, I don't know. Nowadays everyone gets worked up over everything, but maybe there is something out there. But look, if they don't hire him, he's going to be a head coach next year or in the near future. I promise you, because that dude's impressive. And
he is.
Philly, they've lost their minds if they don't just promote him.
Absolutely. I don't think there's a chance in hell that they don't hire this guy. And I would be surprised if they don't come out with that today. by the end of the day. So,
well, they've got to wait. I read that they've got to wait 7 days due to state law.
Aha.
And
Gotcha.
the reason why they're basically now leaking that he's the leader. He's that damn transfer portal, man. It 7 days with the portal open. Oh my gosh, it could be a disaster for Michigan. But I haven't looked at the portal, but it looks like it's they're sticking with him, which is another reason why you should hire him. If a bunch of kids jumped into the portal with him pending as head coach, maybe that'd tell you something. But if they're not, they won't.
That was going to be my thing. My very next thing is, with the transfer portal that can open for 30 days, I don't see the way they played for him this year. I don't see a lot of kids. You'll get some. You'll get 4, maybe 5 guys at the most, I would think. But for the most part, I think those kids are staying there. But an interesting thing came up yesterday, Fitz, that I was listening to online, and I want to get your thoughts on it. With the transfer portal, whether you love it, hate it, this is another reason that people are going to despise the transfer portal. Nick Saban leaves. At the time that he leaves, the transfer portal closed. But they can still jump into the transfer portal, but they can't go get anybody out of the transfer portal. What is going on there?
You can get guys out of the portal, but it's picked over.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Because those kids can leave, but you can't go and get other guys from other schools. Like they can't jump in. I just thought it was interesting. Somebody mentioned that and said they couldn't go get kids.
I'm all for kids being able to transfer if their coach leaves. I'm all in on that. But I don't think it would be a bad idea to have a 48, 72-hour waiting period on the portal. Let's just calm down, and let the AD meet with you, talk about the candidates, trying to just let's slow down here and give the administration a chance to try to maintain that roster as best possible. But now coach said he's leaving. I'm in the portal immediately without even really stopping to think about it. And of course you can go into the portal and not go anywhere and just come back, but that's a good way to piss off your existing university too.
Yeah.
So,
some of that is they've been contacted already. And before they announce that they're going into the portal, and it becomes your coach is gone. Oh, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and go into the portal. And this is where I'm going. Because some of these kids from Alabama, they made a decision within a day or two on where they were going.
Right.
So it's almost like, well, what's going on here? What's going on behind the scenes?
They're out there punishing. I'm forgetting what school it was. I did a whole commentary on it for driving a potential player and his mother to the NIL meeting. They're worried about that at the NCAA.
Florida State.
Yeah, it was Florida State. And then now you have Oregon accused of trying to poach players off of rosters, which I'm glad someone got called out for it. But NCAA, this is happening all over college sports, and you are ignoring it.
Yeah.
And this is dangerous.
Yeah.
I guess one of the things I wouldn't mind from the new Big 12 is a hard policy on this. Mm-hmm. We won't do it, and we will report if you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone in our conference does it, we got it. We're going to handle it. They've got to stop letting people get away with bending or breaking the rules because it's too much work for them to enforce. It's awful.
It's not only that, Fitz, it's also they pick and choose who they want to punish. So how did Florida State become the school that you decided to punish over somebody driving somebody to an NIL meeting when you know that happens at the majority of schools that even have NIL out there? Right. They're taking kids. And that's all he did. He drove them to the meeting. He didn't give them any money. He just drove them to the meeting, drove them back. Apparently that's a penalty and 2 years probation. 2 years probation for a drive.
This is like giving the kid from the South that comes north to play college football a winter coat.
Yes.
And then you penalize them. It's the same thing. look, I mean, NCAA, if someone doesn't have a ride to get to where they need to go, I don't care if it's to go to Macy's, Burger King, or an NIL meeting. Who cares if a coach, if you're on a visit, takes you?
Yeah.
I now the coach shouldn't participate in the meeting, which apparently he didn't.
Right.
They shouldn't. They need to kind of sever these ties a little bit better than they are. But I'll say this: how's an NIL collective supposed to know where the money needs to be spent and how much on whom? Who's the most valuable? What's the pecking order? Do we really need this guy? Without some form of coordination with the coaching staff, you just can't have a bunch of alumni out there paying players, and you're like, we don't really want him that bad. But if you're going to
Right.
offer him $250,000, I guess we're going to have to take him. It's just the whole thing's weird, and so much has to be ironed out. It's a mess.
Absolutely. So got a question down here. I'll bring it up here real quick. Is Big B, since you're a Louisville and K-State fan, do you think Louisville has a legit chance at taking Tang this offseason? Ugh, that's a spicy one.
That's a spicy one. I love it. I want to hear this.
First off, I'm going there tomorrow, so I will be there, and I have been texted multiple times because people that watch the Insiders, some of my Louisville friends watch the Insiders, and they have said, please get Tang to come to Louisville, because Louisville is going to get rid of their head coach. If Kenny Payne is the basketball coach next year, I mean, my goodness, they're not even trying at this point.
It's so
I mean,
bad. I feel bad.
Mackerel.
That seemed like a good hire, but it immediately, not
Oh.
long after, it was like, this wasn't a good hire.
It was terrible. It's terrible. And to be honest, we thought it was a good hire, but when you dig a layer deep and peel the onion back just one layer, you see how he got hired or why, and it was an absolute disaster.
Does Louisville have the kind of money to attract a coach like that? Because it's not just going to be about matching. It's going to be about, I think if Jerome Tang would leave for that kind of job, they're going to have to really step up and make an offer that he simply can't refuse.
Yeah. Louisville has the money.
Yep.
That's one of the things that, Louisville has stepped up in the transfer portal. And there's another question, and we'll talk about that. But they stepped up in the transfer portal in football is because they have NIL. Look, Louisville is a big city. I know a lot of people that they may not know, but Louisville, has 1 million people. So now it's surrounding areas, which a lot of places do that. Indianapolis, Oklahoma City. But it's got 1 million people, and they have some wealthy people that live there. And Louisville, and it runs the economy. That's the one thing that people don't really realize is that the University of Louisville, when it does well and basketball does well, the city does well and the state does well. So they need it. But there's some wealthy people in Louisville that are associated with the University of Louisville. They have the money if they need it. I'm not talking Texas money but they got a ton of money that they can dive into. So if they want Tang, especially after what happened, and we can get into that at another time, they'll have the money to go get him. It's just a matter of, does he want to leave?
Yeah, he loves it. Other than what went down earlier this year, that was, between him and the university president,
Correct.
The athletics and the university president. Other than that, Jerome Tang loves Manhattan. He loves the culture. He loves the people. And it's not just a coach saying that. Every coach says, I love it here, and then they leave. And I think Lance Leipold, genuinely loves Lawrence. And you get to a point, though, do I want to start over? Do I want to go someplace else where it may not work out and I'm not as quite loved and appreciated? There's a lot of things that go into it now, because now a coach has to decide, those life things. How's their NIL? How's their administration? Am I going to have a supportive president AD? All of this gets so complex I don't know if he'd go or not. It'd be a great hire by them and be devastating to K-State fans because they just absolutely love this man.
Well, here's the one thing to keep in mind too, Fitz, is when you get to a certain age, you get a comfort level. You know, and you're making a certain amount of money, there's a comfort level that comes with that. And he can be comfortable in the job in Manhattan and be fine. He would be fine. Not saying that he doesn't have to continue to win. I'm not saying that, but there's a comfort level that's going to come with him. If he goes to Louisville, Louisville fans are going to expect him to do exactly what he did at K-State, bring in a bunch of transfers and win right away. That's what they would be hiring him for. Not to take 3 and 4 years to come and rebuild the program. We saw you do it at K-State. And if you can do it at K-State, then damn it, you can do it at Louisville. I want you to do it at Louisville. And that's what he would be going into. Do you want to put yourself into that? I don't know. I don't know that I would. If I'm comfortable at a place that has all the support in the world outside of an incident and I make a ton of money already, you know, and don't get me wrong, I don't count anybody's pocket, so I'm never going to tell anybody what's enough money. But at the same time, it's just like, hey, I'm comfortable here.
Yeah.
I do a good job here. We can get kids to come here.
Right.
Why not stay? It's just my feelings on it.
I agree. I mean, again, I don't think he wants to go anywhere.
No.
But sometimes you got to go. And, you know, I don't think that'll happen. As I've talked to him more and more, boy, he loves it here. You know, they just,
good for him.
Yeah. I'm just going to say this, K-State fans, you've got an incredible collection of young coaches.
Yeah.
Young by coaching standards. I mean, we all know that 50's old. But I know. But as someone who's about to leave that age barrier and join a new one, but you know, you got Tang and Kleiman, and you know, baseball's going and volleyball's going. And, well, I'm forgetting something here. Women's basketball, that's pretty obvious. You've got so many coaches that other programs are going to want. Period. And it's just going to be part of life at K-State for a while because. You know, maybe Gene Taylor, the AD, inherited one of those coaches, but they're all flourishing under him, and he's hired some really great coaches. That's wonderful. Get used to everyone wanting them because they do, whether it's football, basketball, women's basketball. Now, Mitty's name's going to pop up.
Yep.
And certainly, I think on the volleyball side, we're going to see that kind of growth in K-State volleyball, and then Coach Mansfield is going to be under a lot of offers too, but there's also not many places where you have a brand new arena for volleyball, and not a steel building, a real arena. And I think that's going to play a factor.
Well, I've said this many times. K-State is in a perfect spot. Look, we were all wondering. We were all in a state of despair just 2 years ago, thinking we could have been Washington State. We could have been Oregon State, left
really
out. Yeah, in the cold, you know, and it didn't happen. And I'm glad it didn't happen, obviously, for obvious reasons. But, you know, we're in it. And if we're going to be in it, we might as well put our best foot forward. And it kind of brings me to the next question that comes up here. Said Big B, you talk about K-State needing to swing big for some portal players. Could they have done better this transfer season? First of all, you're 100% right. I always talk about it. I mean it. Yes, they could have done better, but I think they did swing as much as they could for what they put into it. I'll say that. For what they put into it, they swung pretty big and kind of got, you know, some more players. Do they need to keep swinging? Yes. Do they need to keep going? Yes. To me, it's tough after the spring season, depending on what player and what position you're going after. It's hard to get an offensive lineman to come after the spring because you're trying to teach them. I'm not saying that it can't happen or it won't happen, but it's just tough because you missed that spring. I mean, I would think it's almost impossible for a quarterback.
I agree.
Not that K-State needs a quarterback. I'm just saying, but for a quarterback to come and not get a spring, it's tough. It's just tough. Defense, not as tough. You know, you can teach guys, hey, you're playing man coverage, you're playing zone, you're blitzing, you're rushing, that sort of thing. It makes it easier. So I think they need to keep going. But as I mentioned, I think for what they put into it, I think they got out as much as they put in. But do I think they need to do more? Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I think this is and this isn't just old man screaming at the clouds here. I've spoke to Chris Kleiman about this. I think K-State desperately needs to do better in the portal. This is such an advantage. It's a scale. It's like putting your thumb on the scale and bringing down the top programs, because now their backups, that may be unhappy, can come in and play for you and thrive and grow. I think it's time that Kansas State have a portal general manager.
Yes,
that,
sir.
A guy like a I don't know, a Dana Demmel that might want to come back to Manhattan, and his job is to keep an eye on potential players for the portal, players that are the second they jump into the portal, you break them down and you pass it on to the position coach and Coach Kleiman and say yes, no. It is so important with these portal kids to get an early offer.
Absolutely.
It's like, if you wait 48 hours, why do I want to pick your school? You obviously don't love me.
Yep.
And that's just how it goes. If you don't get that offer in really quickly, you're probably not going to get them, particularly a really talented player that's in demand.
Yeah.
And I think K-State could do better. I know they can do better. And it just comes down to where you want to put your money. There's a lot of things that the athletic department of Manhattan needs, the football program needs, but you just probably did some kind of contract adjustments to keep Chris Kleiman, because Washington came after him. They came after both Kleiman and Leipold. This wasn't just a single phone call, just to see what the weather's like. There were decisions to be made by both coaches, because that's an attractive program, and they made a good pitch. So K-State's just got to get better with the portal and find the money to hire a former coach that gets to watch a bunch of film, which somehow you freaks that played football and at that level enjoy. You weirdos. You and Cole Carmody, our guy, loves watching film. We're trying to get the all 22 video available, and there's a service you can do it. It's really expensive. So I mean, that would be just great to break down film.
Yes, I love it. I absolutely would love to break it down. So one last question here that I saw. We touched on this yesterday, Fitz. Is Big B, do you think your Mark's talk of making basketball a separate media deal realistic? And how would this affect the conference? First off, I think it's absolutely realistic.
Yeah.
I think it's 100% realistic. And I think it sets the conference apart and makes us a bigger deal than what people are going to think nationally. Just stay with me on that. Just like we talked about yesterday, it's going to put basketball on a playing field. I'm not saying that football is going to take a step back. I'm just saying it's going to bring basketball up to that plateau. That's what it's going to do. And it's going to put the basketball as a conference on such a high playing field nationally. And that's what we want as the Big 12. We want it to be a national brand. It isn't so much right now, but if we get this contract for basketball, it will 100% become a national brand. And that's what we want. Kind of like they force-fed us ACC basketball for years and Big East basketball for years. Those became national brands because they were on ESPN all the time, and that's all we saw. This could be the same thing. If this happens, I promise you, the Big 12, it will take off. It will become the national brand for basketball. It will be outstanding for the conference. Can't do anything. The gap between the SEC and the Big 10, it will become less of a gap as far as money per year per school.
That's it.
It means everything to the conference right now. If that happens,
that's the key. If you're the Big 12, you look at this. What can we do to start making more money on the football side?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you play at a higher level, win more games, get in the playoffs, get in the championship, win a championship. All that is great, but really tough to do. And because a lot of what drives these contracts is the brand, not the performance, not the team, not the quality of game, but what's on that helmet.
Correct.
Now, the one play that's still out there, could the Big 12 come in and go to these ACC schools? Look, we're doing it right. We'll treat you as equals. And this is a way you can push back against the SEC and Big 10 by joining us, because if we bring in the Florida State, the Clemson, the Virginia Tech, Miami brands all in for football, that's game changing, but it still doesn't raise you to the level of those other conferences. You
Correct.
get a match, but basketball, you've now
Mhm.
added Houston, you've now added Arizona. If you have another round and you pick some up from the East or the ACC, UConn, the value of your basketball brand will be twice as much as any other conference. And
Correct.
plus, you'll be at 20 teams possibly, and that's a lot of stinking inventory you have to sell.
Correct.
I think they can raise a lot of money, and I'll go this far. If executed properly and enough outside forces like Amazon and Turner, maybe Netflix, CW even, if they come in and make this a more competitive bidding market, I'd love to see Paramount Plus as a 24/7 CBS employee or contractor. If that happens, this could get really tangible, and I'll go as far as saying the Big 12 could end up making more money because the basketball could be that valuable and that, my friends, helps football. This isn't about putting basketball first. This is about putting basketball even, because it's not been even in the college environment.
Gotcha. Going to take one quick final break before any final thoughts again from our partners at Synergy Financial. We'll be right back.
At Synergy Financial Partners, the vision is to build the world's largest consumer financial education and empowerment company. Synergy doesn't just offer you a financial plan. At Synergy, the goal is to help you find your best financial future. Learn more at synergyfinancial.com.
Welcome back to the show. Let's head back to the studio.
All right. Well, Fitz, this was a good one, man.
It was fun.
As we were developing this show, the Big 12 or the Big Insiders, excuse me, as we're developing
this is called the Big 12 Insiders. I'm tired of playing that game. By the way, there's another Big 12 show coming out. Some guys from out east are going to do a Big 12 show. I think they've got a West Virginia guy hosting. He hit me up. I'm excited. The Big 12 needs these programs desperately because they ain't going to get it from ESPN and at all. It's just, and even, at 24/7, I fear there'll be some, I don't want to say intentionally, but all those big brands are shiny objects. So
yes,
we got to do our own thing. And this was fun. This was good.
It was definitely fun. As we're growing the show here, I think we need to do more of this. Just getting a round table, people ask questions, just answer what they want to hear, man. I think it's fun. I think it helps everybody in general, just talking whatever you want to talk about and seeing how, because the questions will come from everywhere, everything. I think it's good, man. I think this was a good one.
I'll be sitting in for you tomorrow as you head to see Mom. And I've got an interesting pairing of guests. I'm bringing in some 24/7 national guys. We've done a lot of publishers and writers from the network. But Bud Elliott, who's part of the CBS Cover 3 podcast, he's a 24/7 guy. He'll be one of our guests, along with Chris Hummer, who handles the transfer portal for 24/7 and other things. Those two big cats will be joining little old me right here, filling in for Big B tomorrow at 1 p.m. Central.
All right. Well, I appreciate you joining us again today, Fitz. The Big 12 Insiders. We will be back tomorrow with Fitz hosting, but otherwise, we'll see you guys later. Have a good one.
This has been a GoPowerCat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.